Hi. So I don't have my camera at my house, so I'm recording on my phone. And I don't have a tripod here, and I'm too lazy to bother trying to set it up anywhere because there's nowhere to set it up. So we're just going to be recording on the good old-fashioned phone in my hand. Okay. Now this is super interesting because it is December 29th, right? And I finally finished all 12 books. And some of you might be wondering, Sam, why did it take so long for you to upload this video? What happened? Well, I read a big book. That's what happened. The three books I read for this little time period were. Ooh, what order did I read them? I think it was Convenience Store Woman first, then The Bell Jar, then It by Stephen King. That's what took so long. Took me 40 days to read because it is 445,000 words long. That's almost as long as the entire The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yeah. So let's just get into it, right? First book, Convenience Store Woman. What did I give it? I gave it 7.5 stars. It was a short book. Took me 3 days to read. It's only like 34,000 words or something like that. Really short, really sweet. Great message. Does not overstay its welcome. It's like a movie. You know what I mean? It's like you're reading a movie that's, a little bit longer than a real movie would be. I really didn't have any complaints with the book, but it only got that star rating because I didn't. The book was good, but it wasn't mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like, at no point was I ever like, oh my God, this is the best book I've ever read. I have to give it 20 stars, right? So that's why it only got 7.5. Not because it was ever bad, but because it was never wow. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those. Sorry, just a second. It was one of those not super amazing, but not bad either kind of books. You know what I mean? So that's why it only got 3.75 stars. Next book, The Bell Jar. The Bell Jar. I gave this book 3 out of 10. And that might even be a little high. So that's 1.5 stars, for anyone wondering, out of 5. I hated this book so much because it was so good in the beginning. It was just like The Catcher in the Rye. Oh, so promising at the start of the book. Oh, this could be a 5-star read. No, 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 no. Oh my goodness. I hate the protagonist so much. And some people are like, oh, well, you're supposed to hate her. I hate her because she's so horribly racist to everyone for no reason. And I can't just say, oh, well, it's just the character if the character is based on the author. Like, I'm pretty sure this was the last book she ever wrote. And everyone is saying that the protagonist is just like Sylvia Plath. They're the one and the same person. I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to write a book about a person who's entirely based on you right before you die by killing yourself, and that person is a horrible racist, I'm not going to like your book. So sorry. And also, it was super boring in the end. Like, there were so many ways it could have gone that were better than what it did. I really didn't like this book at all. 1.5 stars is being generous. It really is. And that's just for the start of the book, before she started kicking stereotypical 1930s black people for serving her food that she doesn't want. Yeah. Yeah. That was my reaction too. Okay, let's move on to the last book, which shockingly has far more uses of the N-word than the bell jar, and yet is somehow not even remotely as close to being as racist as the bell jar. Yeah. For context, all of the uses of the N-word were directed at one of the black characters, because this was the book takes place in 1958, and he's being bullied by a racist kid. Yeah. That's sympathetic, right? Because we're not rooting for Henry Bowers, right? Henry Bowers is not a thinly veiled version of Stephen King, I hope. It's definitely not. Anyway, oh my goodness, this book. What did I give it? I think I gave it 8.5. You'll see the score up here. That's what I think I gave it. What? This book was good, but there's this funny little phenomena where it didn't feel anywhere near as long as it was, and that's not a good thing. And you might be like, Sam, what do you mean that's not a good thing? Don't you want super long books to not feel super long? Like, isn't that good? I'm not saying I read it super quickly because it didn't feel long. I'm saying it felt like I read a book that could have been 100,000 words, but it was somehow stretched into 445,000. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't long because there was a lot of stuff covered in the book. It was long because some scenes took up 50 pages. So that's where I'm a little bit conflicted, because the whole story is really great. But at the same time, it felt like I got not that much story. You know what I mean? Like, the more I read it, the more I realized, oh my goodness, the two newest movies actually cover 90% of what happens in this book, but they do it in 5 hours instead of 40 hours. And it's just because each scene in the book takes place over so many more pages than it needs to. And you might be wondering, okay, Sam, then why are you giving it such a high rating? And it's because that's just the style of the book. And I didn't hate it. It was just, sometimes it felt a little bit unnecessary. That's it. Like, it wasn't bad. It was just not what I would have chosen if I were writing this. Like, the biggest comparison I can make is the book A Little Life, which, spoiler for my year-end ranking list, is going to be up pretty high. And by high, I mean even higher than you might think, because I've done some more reflection on the book, and I'm planning to reread it already, because it felt like so long ago, even though it wasn't even a year yet. The comparison I'm making here is that A Little Life is only 2/3 as long as It is. It is 50% longer than A Little Life by word count, right? We're at 300,000 versus almost 450,000. And yet A Little Life feels so much longer than It does, and not in a bad way, in a good way. It feels so much longer because it covers so much more ground than It does. It is a story that could have been 100,000 words that was lengthened to 445,000 kind of thing. Whereas A Little Life feels like a true 300,000 words because we're covering so much story and material. You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like it's too short. Like, it could have been 500,000 words if need be. So that's my best point of comparison of why it doesn't feel as long, but that's not a good thing. Um, yeah. Anything else I have to say? The scene, I guess, in 1958, in the scene where they've just defeated it, and they're trying to find their way out of the sewer, and Beverly comes up with her brilliant idea that they need to do stuff together, and that's how they're going to get out. That scene would be fine if it made any sense from a character perspective, but I don't understand how Beverly comes to that conclusion. Like, at least we weren't getting, this description of it as if it were erotic. But I don't understand where her character gets this idea, is the issue I have with the scene. What is her motivation for this? That's the only thing that's really tripping me up. But I guess to not counter that, but a lot of people don't like the ending of this book or think that his endings in general are bad. I actually thought it was very cinematic. Like, they go into space in their heads kind of thing and, like, see so much, and the way it was written was so good, and I could picture it so clearly that I almost wanted them to do it in the movies. It was actually really good. So I'm actually much more impressed by how the book handles them fighting it at the end of each time period. I really enjoyed that. Right? So that's great. Anyway, that's the end of my review of this book. And also, I thought it was going to be so much darker than it was. Like, the things that happened to them, not at all. Oh my goodness. I was kind of blindsided by how not dark this book was. Like, you know what I mean? I was just expecting so much more, kind of in the vein of A Little Life, and I didn't get hardly any of that. Like, the worst thing that happened was mildly shocking, and it's sort of near the end of the book, and it barely has anything to do with the protagonists. So, also, the passages by Mike in which he's talking about the town and the town's history, those could have been shorter. And the scenes with Henry in 1985, those could have been removed entirely. I think he serves almost no purpose in the story after being a kid. I really don't. That's all I have to say. But, I can't take too many points off for that because that's only 20,000 words total out of 445,000. That's not that many words, which I guess is why I'm somewhat a lot more forgiving of this book. Anyway, and one last note. The miniseries is actually so bad. After just finishing the book, I decided to rewatch the miniseries, and oh my goodness, they changed so many things for no reason and leave out entire important scenes and add in a bunch of new ones that are completely unnecessary and somehow waste the runtime. My new review of the miniseries is a 3 out of 10 because they'll throw in an accurate scene from the book once every maybe 40 minutes, and then the rest is just garbage. Just total nonsense. Half of the scenes don't make any sense. Even in the context of the book, they don't make sense. They change so many things for the characters unnecessarily. They just butcher the story. It's just awful. Really, really sad. And I don't understand why anyone says that those are faithful adaptations, because they are not. They are remembering in their head that one or two of the scenes from the book is in the movie or in the miniseries, and they're putting on their rose-colored glasses and saying, yep, it was just like the book. No, it is not. No, it is not. Oh my God, I hated it so much. It was so bad. Anyway, that's it for this reading vlog. That's 12 out of 12. That's 12 books in the year. I did it. I met my reading goal. And guess what? The one time I don't have my paperback copy of it, it's not because I'm not at home. It's because I'm not at school. I brought it to school with me. So I can't show that off either because now I'm recording the video at home and I don't have it at home. Whereas all the previous times, it was because I had it at home and I wasn't at home. How ironic. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye.